Hey, what's up, guys? Lenny from Reptiles here. I'm with my buddy Thomas, and we'll be starting this podcast thing. Something that me and him wanted to do for a while. So we figured we get our feet wet and jump right into it. We're going to introduce Thomas now, and we're going to go over a few things. We're going to go over how we met, how we started, and our trip to Daytona. So you and I met at a Reptiles show, but it wasn't typically just meeting there as buyer or vendor. We pretty much met because our buddy Art that we both knew, but we didn't know each other at the time. We were gonna do a show together. So was it you and me gonna do the show, or was you and Art gonna do the show?
Art and I were supposed to do the show. He ended up backing out, had something going on, called me up and was like, hey, my buddy Lenny wants to take my table. Is that good with you? So basically, that's how we met. We vended the show together.
Yeah, so we did it that way. So me and Art met. I know you guys probably don't know who Art is, but we're trying to give you guys a little backstory on how this came to be. So I pretty much met Art off a North Carolina reptile group, Facebook group for reptiles, and I had a couple of pod females. He had a couple of scaleless corn snakes. So we pretty much did a trade. Long story short, I'm sure we get Art down here one day to say his part of the story. But long story short, we did a trade, did a few shows together. Again, like Thomas just mentioned, Art couldn't do the show, so I stepped in and we did the Greensboro show in North Carolina, which was a pretty fun show. It was pretty cool. I think we did pretty well at that show, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fairly busy show. I think it was one of the first or second shows that they had done in Greensboro, so it was a new venue. But yeah, pretty good turnout.
Yeah, pretty good turnout. The Greensboro show now, if you guys are familiar with it, kind of went a little bit downhill since then. It's not one of the top North Carolina shows. I guess it's an okay show.
Which one?
The Greensboro.
Oh.
Definitely just an okay show.
Yeah, definitely not as good as Charlotte. Definitely not as good as Raleigh.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how we met. It was a fun show. Really cool. Let's jump into how we started with reptiles. I guess I'll start with that. So I started reptiles at a pretty early age. Wasn't allowed to have reptiles living at home. So I remember wanting a snake. Just a snake. Wasn't into lizards or anything. Just wanted a snake. So I asked my mom if I could have a snake. She was actually going to a party, for a New Year's party, where a girl from the Bronx Zoo worked at the Bronx Zoo and worked in reptile exhibits. So she was going to ask her a bunch of questions. So I was really excited for my mom to come home, explain, what type of snake I can get. That was completely the opposite. My mom pretty much came home with nothing but horror stories about how these snakes get so big and eat turkeys and chickens and rabbits. So that kind of turned off the whole idea of getting a snake. So I had to settle for a green iguana, which I got for a graduation gift. And that thing pretty much went downhill real quick because of the reptile store I got it from. Pretty much gave complete wrong information on how to care for it, take care of it, the whole nine. So pretty much, probably about a week later, let me be honest with you guys, a week later, my mom was going to the store and she was a little tipsy. Not gonna lie, my mom was a little tipsy. So she met a buddy that was living on the corner and had a pet snake in a little terrarium. So my mom actually wound up just buying the snake that night from that guy, and that's how I got my first snake, which was a corn snake.
So your mom was drunk and bought you a snake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, typical
Yeah.
family story.
It's great. Typical New York stuff.
Yeah,
That's what that
exactly. But yeah, that snake was pretty cool. I had that snake for about 15, 16 years.
What kind of snake was it?
It was a creamsicle corn snake. Yeah, so it was a little baby. It was pretty cool because, when I got it, the next morning, my mom was like, oh, how's the snake? It actually had a mouse in the cage, and she's scared of mice. So it was actually in the cage.
So was this a regular New York mouse, or was this a feeder mouse?
It was a feeder mouse.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a feeder mouse. So just for her to not notice that there was a mouse in there and actually get the snake too was pretty cool. So that's one part of how I got into reptiles. Let's jump into how you got into reptiles.
So kind of the same story.
Your mom got drunk?
Yeah, she got drunk, went down to the corner store, bought me a snake. Yeah, so I grew up in a military family, so we lived all over the place. We'd moved to Florida from Ohio. We lived on a lake. There was tons of snakes out there, turtles, lizards, you name it. I could find it out there. Mom had the rule of no snakes in the house. So stuck with turtles, lizards, stuff like that. Any of the snakes I caught, I'd let go the same day typically. And she had the same rule, just no snakes in the house. So I had to wait until I had moved out and finally started getting a couple snakes, started going to reptile expos, stuff like that.
So the first snake that you got, or first reptile you got was?
It was dwarf caiman. Meanest animal ever. Don't recommend it for anybody. But they're super cool looking, but they're definitely mean.
So dwarf caiman, how big do they typically get?
The one I had was, I won't say it was a Mueller's. I think 3.5 feet's about the max. But they're one of the most aggressive crocodilians out there. And they take up a lot of room.
And when you got it, did you expect the attitude and the behavior from that animal, or you thought it was gonna be a little different?
I had read about it, and like you'll read, hey, there's so and so has a friendly one, so and so has a friendly one. Mine was never handleable. Anytime you got close to the enclosure, it would try and bite you, and not out of aggression, just out of a feeding response.
And when you bought it, was it more as a pet, or was it gonna be a breeder?
Oh, just as a pet.
As a pet?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that was the first lizard you got. So what was the first snake you got?
It's not a lizard.
It's close.
It's not a lizard. No. Okay.
It's a reptilian.
It's a reptilian. First snake I ever got was actually an albino red-tailed boa.
So you got that at the show? Did someone ship it to you?
I had somebody ship it to me. I think I found it on King Snake when it was still the main place to find snakes online back in the day.
So was it? So how long did you have that snake for?
I had it for about 3 or 4 years, and then just kind of changed directions, got out of boas.
So what triggered you from collecting to breeding snakes?
Breeding.
You needed the money, right?
Yeah. I had to feed my drug habit. Breeding, something I wanted to try. See if I could get stuff to breed. Wild caught stuff's a little bit harder to breed. Captive bred stuff.
So were you trying with wild caught stuff to breed, or no?
I would have like a Knowles and fence lizard, stuff like that would lay eggs in captivity. My grandfather, he dug up some turtle eggs. I hatched those in captivity, stuff like that. But I had never really bred anything purposely on myself.
So the first stuff that you bred on your own, what was that?
It was actually some corn snakes.
Was it like a mistake, or you knew what you were doing?
100% mistake. I put a male in with a female while I was cleaning some tubs out.
That's kind of how it works, you know?
Yeah. Babies pop out a little bit later.
So were you shocked to see? So did you see like the ovulation and all that, or was it
never
all a miss?
Witnessed the mating? Never witnessed ovulation. None of it. Just came down, clean out tubs, and there was some corn snake eggs down there.
And those corn snake eggs, did you incubate them? Did you let the mom take care of them? Or?
I incubated them. I used a hoverbaiter, hatched them out, and it was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, they all came out.
I think all of them were good eggs, and there was all kinds of genes that I didn't know that the corn snakes had in them.
So when you put those two corn snakes together, were you trying to breed them, or were you trying to house them together?
Just cleaning tubs. So I needed to clean out another tub, rinse it out. So I just put two of them together so I could get that one tub clean, and nature did its thing.
So wait, the one time of them just being together did the job?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It was like 15 minutes, just like me.
Wow, that's interesting. Oh, that's really cool.
How about you? What was the first thing you bred?
First thing I bred, it was ball pythons. It was pretty frustrating at first because all the stuff that I was buying, I'm not gonna name where I got the stuff from, but everything I was buying as females were actually males. So I was seeing all these breeders and people that was starting when I was starting, and they were getting all their first, second, third clutches, and I wasn't getting anything. And I had all these females I thought were females, and actually was breeding male to male. Wound up sexing them, making sure, seeing if they were females or males, and they were all males. So that was a nice setback for about 1.5 years. So I had to start all over, and just got a bunch of females that actually were females. And the first stuff that I ever bred, I remember it was a spider ball python to a Mojave. Produced 2 spider Mojaves, a couple of spiders, I think 1 Mojave. Actually, still have that spider Mojave. The first thing I ever produced, I still have it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. How long ago was that?
probably about 8 years ago.
So has she bred for you since or no?
She's bred for me since she probably laid about 4 clutches. So she laid she bred this year. We bred Pastel, Lessa, and she goes to her. Got a couple of cool stuff from her. Yeah, so it was really, really interesting to get stuff from her. But so you and I have spoken before about me keeping a lot of stuff, and you actually don't hold back a lot of stuff.
I have never kept a snake that I have produced. I might this year. I produced albino palmetto, so I'm on the fence with keeping that snake just because super cool snake. Palmetto's been something that I've really wanted to hatch out for a long time. Finally did it this year, so it's kind of more of I feel like accomplished with it, so I want to hang on to it. But other than that, I'd rather buy an adult female as opposed to wait the 2-3 years for the females that I produce to get big enough.
So we're not going to sound cocky right now and say we're professionals at all, but
definitely not.
But you're saying like on a professional scale of you breeding ball pythons and corn snakes, you're saying that you never held anything back and you sold everything you ever produced.
Everything.
That's crazy.
If I could sell the whole clutch, I would.
Yeah, like you mentioned before about that jug habit. Again, this is all jokes, guys. But it's kind of crazy to think that because like maybe about 80% of my racks are full of snakes that I produce and held back. And just think, you've been doing it 6, 7, 8 years, maybe longer than I have.
Right.
And you haven't held anything back pretty much.
No. I try and buy, like I said, adult females.
Do you feel like you get out of projects quicker than you should stick into them? Do you feel like you jump around projects? Like you feel like you should hold on to stuff?
It depends on who you ask. Like I definitely regret selling some stuff. And I have kind of jumped around from project to project. I mean, ghost, albinos, stuff like that. I mean, those are really cool recessive genes, but I like codom stuff. I mean, you can see it the next year. It's a little bit quicker of a payoff, but it also drops in value a lot quicker than what the codom stuff does.
So do you feel like with everything that...
I'm sorry, with the recessive stuff?
Yeah. So do you feel like with everything that I'm kind of doing, like holding stuff back, producing hets, do you feel like that's a trend that you're going to start a little bit, or you're still going to continue of like producing codominance, those triple, quad mutations, and kind of go that route, or you think about adding some recessive and actually holding stuff back finally?
So as far as holding stuff back is, I would do it if there weren't adults out there to buy.
Okay.
I mean, if I can buy an adult female or male that sets me a year ahead of what I would be holding it back, I'd more lean towards doing that.
So if you can get your hands on, let's say, a double gene snake with being het as a female adult compared to producing your own, that's the route you would go.
Het stuff is kind of odd because you have to trust who you're buying the hets from.
But that's what I'm saying. So I'm sure there's stuff that you want to work with, and I'm sure knowing that people that you could buy hets from, that you can't always trust them, like, does it make you want to actually produce your own so you actually know that you're not wasting your time with potential past hets from people that you may or may not know, and actually produce your own so you actually know that when you breed that animal that you will
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, yes to that. But then the next year, if I see a visual of that snake, I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and jump on that, and I'll sell the hets that I produced. And again, it's a little more difficult selling hets in a visual because you have to go by somebody's word, which there's reputable people, but just like you said with the all the females that you thought you had that turned out to be males, you just have to kind of keep an eye out for reputable people.
And now the next thing I want to bring up, like, have you ever been like burned, like dealing with like breeders or vendors, or even like, I'm sure Craigslist people, where people get burned the most, but you ever felt like you got burned, like dealing like keeping reptiles, dealing with reptiles, like with vendors and breeders, like buying an animal, like I bought females and they were males. Like,
yeah, I've had that happen too. I've bought what was supposed to be a het female. She was het ghost. Ended up moving her into a enclosure with another female. Same thing with the corn snakes where I was cleaning tubs. Moved her down there. And she ended up trying to breed one of my other females. Turns out she was male, and it was my fault for not sexing her when I bought it. I also had a pastel bamboo that I bought from a reputable breeder at a show. He popped it there, looked to be a female, Same thing. A couple years later, I'm moving stuff around, and he's trying to breed something when he's supposed to be a female. So it's my fault for not sexing the snakes when I should have. That's about the only time I've been burned. But I mean, if you look at Craigslist and even some of the stuff on Morph Market, animals are misrepresented. I mean, Craigslist, there was an ad on there the other day that said something was het pastel. Pastel is a codominant gene. It's not a recessive gene, so there's no way to have a het for it. So one thing I would caution people about, especially when they're first getting into the hobby, is make sure you do your research. Make sure you're researching who you're getting the snake from. And if you don't know about it, ask people. I mean, most people in this hobby are extremely friendly. They'll tell you everything you need to know, so unless you're asking Lenny questions. Other than that,
Danny can't help you. You got like one word answers.
But yeah, ask questions and educate yourself as much as possible, especially if you're planning on dropping any amount of money on anything.
Yeah, and just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's the right deal. You know, if you guys are looking for a pet, you know, that's all fine. But if you're looking to bring this to a different level and start breeding, be very cautious of what you buy. Projects could vary in price, and you know, just pretty much just vary in all different situations. You know, what's hot today might not be hot tomorrow, so just kind of look down the future. Don't buy, you know, I would always tell people buy a bunch of female before they actually buy that male. But definitely have a goal. Definitely have a goal of what you want to accomplish. Just don't jump right into it. 'Cause I know getting into ball pythons, I jumped into it. I just bought a bunch of different single gene males. I'm sure you did the same.
Right.
I bought a bunch of, you know, females, whatever I can get my hands on. You know, at that point, all I wanted to do, and it was a different trend what it is today. It was more like, let's stack everything on top of each other and just produce the most genes possible. But sometimes that clutters the animal and doesn't really do the best potential that animal can actually show. So, like, a lot of people see what Justin Gabelker is doing and producing great, you know, grade A animals, A plus animals, and they only have 2 or 3 mutations, but just putting the right mutations makes a, you know, a completely different animal than stacking 4, 5, 6 different genes. Doesn't mean you can't stack all the genes and produce something really killer, but you might want to just take a step back and actually figure out what you want to produce to what, so you're not just sitting around with, you know, a 5 gene white snake or a 4 gene white snake, which nothing wrong with that. You can always breed it out. If it's female, even better. You know, you guys, you know, you're not losing out. But sometimes selling animals with that, you know, you could potentially lose some money because you don't know what's in it. Because you gotta take the hit, guys. You guys could put the pos, spider, postus, whatever it may be in that gene, in that white snake combo. But you really gotta understand, like, at the end of the day, it's a white snake.
And that kind of goes back to like buying the hets, because you can't see what all's in it.
Yes.
So you're taking the breeder's word of, oh, this is what I think it is in it. This is what could be in it. And obviously there's certain genes that you can't breed together. Like you can't breed spider to spider because you're going to end up with some stillborn eggs.
Yeah.
So try and think about what you're doing. Go with something you're passionate about. Don't go with something that is hot right now. Go with something that long term you have goals for. Like you want to produce something that hasn't been produced before, something that nobody's seen before, stuff like that. Don't just hop on the hottest trend and you have 2 years down the road, you're like, oh man, this really doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. So I know I bought a lot of snakes for a couple $1,000s, I'll be honest. And when I got ready to breed and produce animals, they were just a couple $100s at most. So yeah, there's times where you put the money in and you think that you're going to make that money back. But again, it's like a stock market. It could always fluctuate. So just try to, you know, think ahead, plan ahead, see what's going to be hot. I know it's always hard to tell what's going to be hot in 2-3 years from now. But just keep your head out there and see what other people are doing and try to do it a little different. Try to be a leader, not a follower when it comes to producing animals. So we recently came back from Daytona, probably about a few weeks ago. And it was fun. I had a lot of fun. It was my first time at Daytona. I know you've been there a handful of times.
Yeah, this was my actually 5th year of going down there.
So is that something that you do every year, or?
So typically we make a vacation out of it, and then we'll go down Monday before the show, hang out on the beach, and then Saturday, Sunday, spend the majority of the day at the show, go to the auction Saturday night. This year was a little bit different, obviously, because of coronavirus. Show wasn't as big, definitely not as many vendors, definitely not as many folks down there buying snakes. The attendance wasn't as high. Still a really good turnout as far as vendors and folks buying snakes, but definitely not as big as it has been in the last couple of years.
So when you first went to Daytona, like you just mentioned, it's much different now than it was then. So what was better then, besides like the virus? Was it like better animals then, better pricing?
It was the first big show that I'd been to. Like, I'd done the local North Carolina shows. I'd
So
been
you
to a
never
couple
been to
Virginia
Tinley
shows.
or California or any of those
No.
shows? So this was your first big show?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
first big show. And it was kind of kid in a candy store. You see a lot of stuff that, I've only seen this on the internet. I've only seen pictures of this, and you can see it firsthand. You can hold it. Those scales, ball pythons down there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just stuff that you don't see at your local shows. It was super cool, and I recommend anybody that can go to Tinley, can go to Daytona. I've never been out to any of the shows in California or anything like that, the St. Louis show. But, on the East Coast, Florida is huge. Tinley, I know it's not East Coast, but that's a really awesome show. Tinley, definitely a better show, especially quality-wise. And just a really, really busy show. If you
I think it's more well put together too.
I agree with you, and I think a lot of the more high-end vendors go there. And Tinley, it's a different animal because you can walk around most shows and see kind of like, I want to come back and look at this snake a little bit later. That snake's not going to be there when you get back in Tinley. By the time you get back to that table, man, half their stuff could be sold out. So it's a little bit different of a show.
Yeah, because if you went to Tinley and you actually started from the left or the right and actually walked all the way up and down each aisle, it will at least take 3 hours.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a couple hours.
And that's almost without a busy crowd. If you're getting stuck with people on the way, that's how big Tinley is. It's a beast. If you guys have the opportunity to go there and check it out, I highly recommend it. Please bring lots of money. Not saying that it's expensive. There is expensive animals there. But it's so many type of different animals where if you're looking for frogs, they have a bunch of frogs. Like, there's so much variety there. Sorry, guys, I don't know if you hear the tapping. That was me tapping. But there's so much variety there where it's hard not to buy random stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard. Have a game plan when you go to shows. Know what you're looking for. Kind of know what the pricing is on Morph Market. Look it up. That way you know somebody's got a good price on something. If somebody's asking too much for it, and look and see if those vendors are going to be at the shows. That way you can go directly to that person. Be like, so Nerd has this particular snake I'm interested in. Let me go straight there, see what they have, see if they brought this animal, and I can take a look at it in person as opposed to a photo of it.
I know we're jumping back talking about Daytona and Tinley. But let's stay on Tinley a little bit more. I think the cool thing about Tinley is that you had the VIP passes on Friday.
Agreed.
And if you guys aren't familiar with that, it's a pass that you get. I believe you can get it for the whole weekend. I'm not too sure if you can just get it on Friday. I'm sure it's for the whole 3 days.
It gets you in on Friday,
Yep.
and I think it gets you an hour earlier on Saturday and Sunday as opposed to the general admission.
Yeah, and the cool thing about having those VIP passes, you can actually walk right in. Just gotta show the pass. You don't gotta wait online at all. So it's really cool. It's like a fast pass at Six Flags. So it's really cool. But what I like about the setup, the Friday setup, is that you can actually see the vendor setup, and you can actually get first pick of what people put out before the general public actually get to it. So that's a good thing. I wish more shows did that. In a way, not every show, but I wish more shows did that. I wish Daytona did that.
Daytona would definitely be good to have that.
I think this year if Daytona did do that, I think we still were going to be there for the 3 days.
Right.
But if we weren't, I think the first day we would have that Friday we probably would have bought everything and just left that we wanted.
I can definitely see that. Yeah. Yeah.
But it gives the opportunity of just getting first dibs. And I guess the venue would actually have an idea of how many people are going to be there, kind of with the VIP passes. I don't know how that really works, but I don't know. I just think it's a cool idea. And one thing before we jump into Daytona, me and Thomas were mentioning that I feel like not a lot of shows really promote US Arc. And I feel like some of these bigger shows, they always have these auctions, like he mentioned earlier, how Daytona have the auctions on Saturday night only.
Saturday night, yeah.
Saturday night, and so Tinley does the same thing on Saturday night. I feel like a lot of these shows should come together, or even US Arc should maybe see what they could do. But I feel like there should be a donation box or something where every show you should be able to donate to U.S. ARC. You know, it helps us out as a community, helps the animals out, helps regulations and state laws, and I think it's something that is a must. I really think I'm surprised it's not like that everywhere. I know we do the Repticons. I know they don't do that. I know in New York with the White Plains, I know Hamburg, they don't do it. And again, I'm not calling anyone out on that. I just feel like it's something that I think representatives, or maybe of U.S. ARC or somebody should step in and maybe see what we could do about that. I think it'd be pretty cool and it'd be very, very beneficiary.
And U.S. ARC, they do a lot of stuff to keep the hobby alive. I mean, the banning of the large constrictors, stuff like that. I mean, they fought all that stuff, and it's. I mean, it used to suck to not be able to transport a retic or a Burma across state lines. Mm-hmm. So they do a lot of good work, and that good work does not come cheap. I mean, I think the auction in Daytona raised like $60,000 this year, maybe a little bit north of that.
And that's one night with a handful of people at a auction. Just imagine what Well, I know Phil Goss, because Phil Goss who runs U.S. ARC. I know he was at the show. I'm not sure if he was getting donations on the spot at the show. I'm sure he was accepting it. And
yeah, U.S. ARC had a table set up where you could donate there. They had a 50-50 auction the weekend of the show, and then they had the auction Saturday night, which the auction was a little bit smaller due to COVID. But, I mean, it was, like I said, it still raised $60,000.
Exactly. Like you mentioned, about $70,000 on a COVID expo that wasn't as big as usual and didn't have a lot of big name people that were there.
Right.
A lot of big name people, they usually throw the big bucks around and help out a lot. I'm not saying they're not doing it behind the scenes or because they wasn't there, they didn't donate. But just to be able to pull in that much money at such a, not a small venue, because it was a big venue, but just like not a lot of people, it was really impressive to make that much money. So back to Daytona. There's so much you could do there. It's not only just an animal spot, like a reptile show spot. Like, it's a great place to actually vacation. It was mine and Andrea's first time vacationing in a long time, and actually going there was really cool. We really can't wait to go back next year. We kind of wish we wish it was a 2-time type show a year.
2 times a year.
Yeah, kind of like Tinley. And it's funny because I was talking to a few people because they were asking me about my trip to Daytona, and I love Tinley. Tinley's different, but just being at Daytona is just so cool. Just having the beach,
the
pool,
beach,
the hot tub. It is so much to do there. And if you guys ever been to Tinley, Chicago, and all like that, there's not much you could do besides just enjoy reptile people, and
it's cold as hell in October.
Yeah, it's cold there. Like, don't get me wrong, Tinley's a lot of fun if you hang out with the right people and buying the right snakes. But if you're having a bummy day at one of the shows or something, just be able to walk to the beach, which is just a few feet away, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's right across the street from the venue.
Yeah, it's a super cool venue. I was really shocked, really impressed. I'm glad I had an opportunity to go there. It was a lot of fun. Yes, I think that was pretty cool. So you mentioned that you've been there 5 years in a row. Do you remember the first animal you bought at your first Daytona show?
The first Daytona I went to was actually, I wasn't really into snakes at all. I don't think I had any snakes. And I was really into dart frogs.
You had no snakes at all?
Like, I had 2 boas at the house, and then I was really into dart frogs. So I went down there, bought a crap ton of plants, bromeliads, stuff like that. And that was pretty much it. I didn't really buy any snakes the first year I went. Wasn't really into it, and then I have this bad habit of going through cycles of I'm really into dart frogs, I'm really into saltwater fish, I'm really into snakes, stuff like that, or just cycles. And
but they had no fish there, right?
No fish, yeah. But I definitely got the lots of frogs and plants.
So yeah, frogs and plants. Were you expecting? Sorry, guys, we're having a little difficulty.
There's a spider in the room.
Yeah, and we have our girlfriends down here, so we had to fight the spider off as we do this. But I think Daytona was a lot of fun this year. I was able to buy a handful of things. I was able to pick up 4 female lavender ball pythons, one being black pastel lavender, and I was also able to buy a freeway male. So I did pretty well. I think I turned out pretty well. I had a lot of fun. It wasn't much variety this year at the shows. Some cool ball pythons. A lot of breeders had some cool stuff. But I was honestly expecting a lot more to be at the show.
Lenny, Your rats are chewing out of their rack,
Oh,
buddy. So let's pause this real fast.
Alright guys, so you can clearly hear we had a rat issue. We could have came back and finished the podcast, but unfortunately it got a little later than expected taking care of the rats. I apologize that we didn't finish. I apologize if you guys feel like this wasn't professional, but we did try to take it as serious as possible, and we will continue to keep doing podcasting. I think it's something that we really enjoy doing. I have another podcast with Andrea coming up next. Hope you guys enjoy that. We're going to try to pump 1 or 2 out a month. If you guys have any topics or any suggestions you guys want us to talk about, just comment down below. We would appreciate it. Again, this isn't typically what I do. You guys know I usually finish up with my work, and this isn't what Thomas does. We're more professional than that. But again, we don't live with each other, so it's really hard to just come into the studio basement and complete this outro. So I'm here right now completing the outro. I apologize for that. As you can see, I was trying to buy some time to finish up and wait until he came back. But again, the problem was a little bit more serious than that he could handle, so I had to stop and go help him out. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It was our first one. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys like the new ones, and I hope you guys stay tuned. We're going to be doing this for a while. Thank you.